everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, here with a review of a new release. I know, it's surprising to me too, but I just got out of seeing Megalopolis, Francis Ford Coppola's new film, and I decided to talk about it. Where do I even start? The movie was directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Godfather, Conversation, Apocalypse Now, The Outsiders. Francis Ford Coppola has done a lot of good things in the movie world. A lot of very important things in the movie world. It tells the story of a man played named Caesar. Man, the names of the characters in this movie. The main character is Caesar Catalina, played by Adam Driver. He is a massive tech billionaire, and he stumbles upon a very important super element called Megalon, because if you're going to name if you're going to name your element after a Godzilla villain, I guess Megalon was your first choice and not Ghidra or Baragon, regardless. Catalina wants to use the element to create positive change in the world. However, the mayor of New Rome, yeah, because the city in this movie is called New Rome, named Mayor Cicero, played by Giancarlo Esposito, hates this idea and tries to stop it at every turn. And the movie is just one big cluster of Catalina trying to fight the mayor while also trying to stave off his family, whose patriarch is played by John Voight, his cartoon character of a cousin, played by Shia LaBeouf. Yes, that's Shia LaBeouf. And just the power struggles within, specifically from from John Voight's character's new bride, Wow Platinum. Yes, that is the character's name.
Come on, man, that's garbage.
Before I do talk about this one, though, I do want to give a little bit of props because Francis Ford Coppola famously went all in on this one. He sold his winery, he gathered somewhere in the ballpark of nine figures to make this movie and, in a sense, produce it himself. That takes guts. And so, regardless of how I feel about the quality of this movie, I have nothing but respect to Francis Ford Coppola for betting on himself and trying to do something big on essentially his own dime. But this thing absolutely stinks. And what makes it even worse is that it didn't have to be this way. There's actually some good ideas here, but they are buried underneath just a bunch of nonsense. The best way that I can describe this movie, and I've used this phrase before, but it applies here, this movie is as wide as an ocean, but it is deep as a puddle. Most things he's in, Adam Driver is the best part of the movie. Adam Driver, I swear to God, he is snake bit as an actor, because he gets with all these great directors like Michael Mann and Ridley Scott, but he gets them at like weird times where Ridley Scott thought it was a good idea to cast Jared Leto with that Italian accent in House of Gucci, or whatever the hell Ferrari was supposed to be. Adam Driver is usually the best part of anything that he is in, and that goes double here. His character was the most intriguing to me, and I wanted to see more of him and why he was trying to find Megalon, and when he finds Megalon, why he wants to use Megalon to improve things. I want to figure out what made this guy tick. Shia LaBeouf's character nearly just destroys the movie from the inside out. He plays this very over-the-top character who is trying to throw a monkey wrench into every one of Caesar's plans because they're cousins and they hate each other. Shia LaBeouf is such a distraction in this movie that it is just borderline maddening. He says these weird ass things. It's heavily implied that he is sleeping with his sister because it's a fable on ancient Rome, you see, and Coppola's trying to say that ancient Rome is like how we are today. More on that in a minute. Like LaBeouf's character dresses up in like as a Roman woman, it just in drag, it's so bizarre. And Shia LaBeouf does no favors. Like there's even a scene in which he is on a street leading a protest with a megaphone. I swear to God, someone on that set must not have clued Coppola in as to why Shia LaBeouf leading a protest was not going to be funny to a good amount of people who were going to see this movie. Because as soon as I saw LaBeouf leading a protest on a street and yelling into a TV camera, I immediately thought of He Will Not Divide Us, which if you don't know what that is, just Google it. It's the funniest thing you'll see in a while. John Voight's character is just kind of there. I feel like they had more to do with him, but he's supposedly this really rich guy, but there are scenes where he gets really drunk and at the Coliseum and he's like just catcalling. It's bizarre. Dustin Hoffman plays the aide to the mayor. Yes, that Dustin Hoffman. You can count the number of scenes he has on one hand and have fingers left over, and his dialogue includes, but is not limited to, you know what's bigger than Harrison Crass's bank account? His prick.
Don't want you polluting this beautiful Sussex County air with your language.
This movie has a pretty stacked cast. Lawrence Fishburne is in the movie. Talia Shire is in the movie for two or three scenes. Jason Schwartzman is in this movie too, and Wes Anderson is nowhere to be found near this. So I don't know what Jason Schwartzman was doing there, but he was there. Point I'm trying to get at is that this is a loaded cast, and I got to give credit to Coppola for loading up this movie with talent. And like he said, employing people that don't get along politically, but are very good at what they do for the most part. But man, they're given next to nothing to do. And especially in the second act, a lot of these characters just go by the wayside. And so you just ask yourself, why was this even a thing to begin with? My biggest problem here really comes down to, like I said, wide as an ocean, deep as a pebble. And that really means this movie has ideas and things to say, but it never really explains those ideas or really say anything. It hints at it, but doesn't really say anything. And then by the second act, all of the subtlety that may have been there just gets flushed down the toilet, and Coppola like pretty much just equates Shia LaBeouf's character to a certain former president, and his following basically boils down to a bunch of dudes wearing red hats.
I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
And I have no problem with Coppola wanting to discuss these things or have these things woven into his movie. I have no problem with him doing that. But you need to make it so that there's a point to it besides you just want to have a moan, Coppola. Like you need to make it make sense. And at a certain point, I just said to myself, this just makes absolutely no sense. Adam Driver's character is a bit of a drug user, but is only a front so that like he fits in with his family, but deep down inside, like he hates that. So there are interesting ideas here, and there are definitely ways that these could have been done. But every time it's just shunted by way of let's just have like let's just have more modern allegories there because just why not? It especially does not help things that the movie essentially takes place in New York City. It's called New Rome. The Madison Square Garden is called the Coliseum, even though Madison Square Garden branding is everywhere. There's even an establishing shot where you see New Rome, where it's supposed to be Wall Street, and you see flags that say the New York Stock Exchange. Could you have paid an editor to go in there and edit it to say like New Rome Stock Exchange or something like that? Like basic things. And I know it's supposed to be a fable, meaning not real. I understand that. But when you ground New Rome to make it so much looking like New York City, I have a lot of questions. It's like that Danny Boyle movie Yesterday, where the Beatles never formed and no one knows except for Dev Patel's character. I was just sitting there thinking to myself, okay, so if the Beatles don't exist, what all else doesn't exist in this universe? Like, it just, Play the Batman Forever clip.
It just raises too many questions.
I struggle to find the words because there's clearly effort here in the story, in the presentation, in the acting, but all of it just fails to connect. It feels like there are three or four separate movies, and it's all tried to fit into 2 hours and 18 minutes, and it just fails miserably. This movie's horrid, and I feel bad that I have to give this movie this rating, but I just have no bones about it. This movie, it just is a big old chore to sit through. I get what Coppola was trying to say. I just didn't get it. Well, what did you all think of this movie? If you do go and see the movie, let me know in the comments. I would love to read what you have to say. Watch The Godfather. It's a much better Francis Ford Coppola movie. Or Apocalypse Now, for that matter. Watch the 4K. It's the best version of it. Or The Outsiders. Definitely watch The Outsiders.